Okay, so welcome back to another tutorial on Bitwig, and on this one we need to talk about the expressions. So let me just first show you. This is the sound we're going to work with first. Alright, it's a pretty simple sound, just an ARP, with a little bit of delay and reverb. Cool, so let me just bring the module. I'm going to go to expressions and hear this. So this one, what it will do, it will listen to the velocity, the timbre, the release, or the pressure, which is a different word for this one. It's going to be the aftertouch of your keyboard. Or, you can work with a MIDI clip. But it's just pretty much the same way. It's going to listen to your keyboard, whatever you're playing live, or the MIDI. Okay, so this one, again, will listen and it will follow the instruction of whatever you're doing, and then, move something, do a modulation. Now, if you think about this, you kind of already get something like this on a synth. You get the velocity controls, the amp velocity sensitivity in this case, and this one is going to be listening to the velocity, which is how hard you hit the keys when you play something. So for now, whenever it's off, it means that all the keys have the same velocity. So there's kind of a no movement right there. Now, then you have the keyboard key tracking. Now, the key tracking will kind of make the sound or the filter react in a different way depending on the key you're pressing. If you're playing on higher keys, the filter is going to be a little bit more aggressive, and I can actually show you this. If I go down, notice that the sound gets darker. So it means that all the keys are just doing the same filtering. Now, if I go up, the higher keys are going to get a little bit more brighter, and the darker sounds are going to get, not darker, but they're not going to be as bright. Okay, for now, I'm just going to turn it off all the way down. And we're going to talk about this. So this one will listen to the velocity, timbre, or release, or pressure, and then move something, right? That's the whole point of all of this. So just to prove, just to show you how this works, I'm going to go to this clip. And remember, on each MIDI clip, you can check the velocity, you can check the timbre right here, or the pressure. We don't get a release. And actually, a release is kind of a weird, I don't even know what that is. I believe is when we release the keys. I'm not sure. Never had a MIDI keyboard that, triggers or sends a release kind of instructions. So it's still, we can still use it to do something. So first I'm going to go and show you the velocity, because the velocity is something that we all understand is how hard we hit the keys. So if I select this once right here and I go all the way down on the velocity, this is just going to sound a little bit different. The problem right now is that this synth will not listen to velocities. So if I go and say that we want to hear that velocity, notice that the first notes that we are playing, since the velocity is all the way down, you're just not going to get anything. So in this case, since I don't want to use the velocity of the synthesizer, I'm just going to use this one. Okay, so I'm going to turn it off. Okay, so what we can do, we can provide different instructions with this, going up, going down, and this one is the instruction of what's happening right here, which is the velocity, is what this is going to be listening. So if I do a crazy thing right here, this one, it will send some instructions or some modulation in that crazy fashion. You know what? We're going to go crazy. I'm going to go right here. And whenever we select a clip, notice that you get right here all the options. And you can go all the way down to the velocity or all the way up. Or maybe we can go and do some crazy. So I'm going to go, and maybe we're going to make this one a little bit smaller so we can see it right here. There we go. And I'm going to go and do chaos. This one we will kind of make chaos. And I'm going to go down the scale, and this one will make them, together, or we'll just break them kind of apart, let's say, apart from each other. And I'm going to go down in kind of the volume, let's say, the amount. So now we get a crazy kind of modulation. So this one, of course, is going to be the velocity. So now what we can do is we can go right here. And since the velocity is different, it's going to get a modulation based on whatever it is that we are doing right here. That's the whole point, right? We can see the modulation. Now, of course, right now we are doing something random, but you can do something a little bit more planned right here. It's completely up to you, of course. So that's the velocity. So then you get the other ones, and on the other ones, it's just the same idea. I'm gonna go to velocity and just remove it, and I'm gonna go to the other one, which is the timbre. So I'm gonna go, and we get the timbre right here. So okay, so on this one, we're gonna do the same thing. We can go select all, and go right here to the timbre controls, and we're gonna get pretty much the same idea. We can do some chaos, we can do some scaling, we can do something like that. And maybe I'm going to bring them down or just something like there. And on this one, we can do spread. I'm going to show you that one in a minute. And I'm going to go and do pretty much the same thing. I'm going to go and notice that this one will react a little bit different. Let me just show you there. It's doing the modulation, but it's not going crazy up and crazy down. It just works in a different way. All right, so let's just go crazy. Why not? Yeah. All right, so pretty cool. So there you get the timbre. All right. So the other thing that we can do instead of using timbre, I'm going to go and just kill this one and use the release. Now on the release, we don't have a visual, way of changing this. Now we have something right here that calls release and the R velocity. This is going to be the one. And we can do, again, the same thing. We don't have a visual control, but we can see it working right there. So let me just go something like that. Why not? Okay. So I'm going to go and do the release just to show you that this one, gives us something. I'm going to go and do a play. And there we go. We get the modulation. All right. Now, again, now that we know how this one works and this one works, this one is just pretty easy, right? So I'm going to go back and I'm going to reset it, or maybe just delete this one. And I'm going to go to the aftertouch. Now, of course, you get an aftertouch right here, which is going to be the pressure. Right now, everything is just all the way down, but we can go to the global controls right here and just do the same thing. Go and just make it a little bit more chaotic. There we go. And let's do a little bit of scaling. I'm going to go to the mean. And I'm going to go and do a little bit more chaos. Why not? And again, we can do the same thing. Notice that we are kind of repeating the same idea right here. For the sake of learning, of course. Right. Now, of course, right now, you can do whatever you want right here. Maybe you can do a little bit of that. Maybe you could do a little bit of that. And, I don't know, maybe change the unison. And just go crazy. And notice that you're going to start getting just different sounds. Now, of course, since we have different controls right here, and they all react to different things, and we are not using the velocity, I can go back right here and just do something different with velocity. Notice that we are having something crazy. It's okay, so maybe I just want to, I don't know, just change the pitch with the velocity. And it's a different instruction from the pressure. Alright, so that's it. This is what we can do with the expressions. Okay, so let me show you something else. I'm going to go and turn this on for now, and I'm going to go and turn this off. We are not going to use it anymore. So what happens if I want to use expressions with a MIDI clip, right? I'm going to go and play this pad. Hopefully it's not too loud. So this is the sound of this clip. You're not doing anything to this one. This is the natural sound of the clip. It's just some pads. What I would like to add a little bit of movement. So one thing you can do, you can add a note source right here and use a keyboard like a modulation source. And whenever you press a key, maybe with the velocity or maybe with the aftertouch, this is going to be sending some signal with that keyboard. In this case, I'm just trying not to use a MIDI keyboard because maybe you don't have one. But you can do this, it's going to listen to this, and then you can do some kind of a modulation, like, I don't know, a filter? Something we can read here. So I'm going to go bring the filter, and I'm going to just, remove that one. And now on this one, we can listen to expressions. So I'm going to go and say expressions. So if you're using a keyboard, whenever you hit a key, I don't have a keyboard right now, a MIDI keyboard, whenever you hear a key, this one is going to detect that note and is going to, recognize the velocity of what you're playing, the aftertouch, and everything else. So this is going to be listening for that. So whenever that happens, it's going to provide an instruction, and we can just, move it with our keyboard on live. But maybe, just maybe, you don't want to do this. You're just making a track and you don't want to do it live, right? You just want to create something that will create a controlled movement with a controlled kind of instruction. So in this one, I have a different track with a MIDI clip, and notice that this is what we get. And this is outputting no sound at all. This is just a MIDI. It's doing something, then we do something short, something long, and something short. And I'm showing you this because this one as well, like the other one, can output different instructions like the velocity or the pressure or the timbre or whatever, right? So we can use this, an instruction. We can go and say, okay, I want to listen for that instrument. This is going to be outputting some kind of velocity, some instruction, and this is going to flow all the way here, and we can do the automation, the modulation. So if you think about this, this is one way of kind of doing automation. Now, the only difference is that we are doing it right here. So for, let me just don't show you with the velocity. I'm going to go, up, then down, then up, and then down, just to show you something. And this is what we are doing, right? Just down, or maybe not that much down, then up and down and up and down, right? So this is going to be playing, is going to flow all the way right here. This is going to be picking this up. And then we grab the velocity and we are going to do some movement with maybe the release, maybe the, the resonance and a little bit of filtering. So I'm going to go play the clip. And there we go. You get a modulation that it's being controlled by whatever MIDI you do right here. All right. Easy as that. Now, some modulations, some controls right here, they give you something else. So let me just first kind of delete this one on the velocity. I'm going to go right here. We have the timbre. And notice if I go down or I go down, this one, go down or up, this one will give you some kind of a breakpoint right here. And what you can do is to do this. And you can even do something like this. So now you can control how you go up and how you go down. So maybe when this one goes down, I don't want to go all the way up to this one. I just want to provide kind of a ramped, slow introduction to this. Maybe something like there. Maybe on this one I'm going to do here. And now you're getting a much more complex kind of a modulation source. Of course, it takes a little bit of work because you need to do this kind of manually. You can, of course, do it with an aftertouch if you have one. If you don't have a keyboard, maybe you have some pads. So if you have a good pad, it should be recognizing aftertouch, which is, how hard or how you do some pressure. That's why it's called pressure. On the timbres, you're going to get it as well. Of course, I'm going to go here and then there. And notice that this takes a little bit of time just to do it manually and just get something, a bit more human, I'm going to go and do the plane. And remember, we are using the timbre. You can do it in pressure as well if you wish. Notice that we get the same thing, right? But I'm using timbre. So I'm going to go and do the same thing, but it's going to be on this one. So now I'm going to go here. I'm going to say, I want to do this and I want to do this. And we are going to get a much better kind of a modulation. And notice that the other one was, the velocity was very choppy, right? This one has a smooth movement. And it's because of, of this. And if you think about this, we can even remove all of this and just do one clip and then do all the breakpoints. Now it works like an envelope. Let's say that we are just kind of creating a 16 points envelope. So this is the same idea, works the same way. So now, of course, with the synth, it's kind of a nice what we get right here, to do the modulation with all of this. But now we have, we are just kind of hitting a different level. We just can create much more complex type of modulations, and we can also do it with this MIDI right here. With the ARP, you can do it like that. So that's it. Just two ways of working with the same thing. Okay, so hopefully you find this useful. And remember to subscribe, to like, and to check Patreon. Everything I do right here gets released on Patreon days or weeks or months after, before it gets on YouTube. So, make sure you check Patreon, and see you on the next one.